Hello everybody, welcome back. As promised, I am going to give you my recommendations on apocalyptic horror. This video we're going to focus on books because it's literally way too long for me to do movies and books in one video. First and foremost, the most important thing here before we get started, a little word from our sponsors. Just kidding. Coca-Cola would never sponsor me. I have 1,600 subscribers and I'm losing them by the day. Okay? Also, TikTok just told me that in order for me to monetize my channel again, I have to get another 4,000 watch hours. Because you know the 89,000 that I already have, they don't count anymore. Thank you, Penguin Publishing. So I'm trying to open this can up. Get that into ya. I read better thanks to Coke Zero. Coke, hit me up. I really need a sponsor. I'm trying to go to Antarctica. And it's very expensive, especially when YouTube keeps stopping me from making money. But by the way, I'm sorry, Penguin Publishing, was the $50 a week, just crippling you guys? Anyway, let's not get into the semantics of the situation. Let's get into what we all came here for. My book recommendations. I hope that's what you came here for. If you're lost and you were looking for something totally different, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's fate that you're here. There's a dog at my door. There's a dog at my door because there's a man in my house and he's not doing the job he's meant to be doing. The plight of a woman. These are my book recommendations for all of you today. Okay? Now, in no particular order, let's just do this as chaotically as possible. We have Stephen King's The Stand. Okay? This is an epic novel. Very, very, very long. In order for me to finish it, I actually had to change to the audiobook because I do not have that many hours in the day and I had so many things I had to do. But I loved it. And the audiobook is fantastic. Essentially, it starts off with this man-made virus, and it's called Captain Trips, and it kills 99% of the population of the world. And what you kind of get left with is this woman that represents the good in the world, and then you have this man that represents evil, and the people that survive are kind of left to choose between those two people who they want to follow. That's a very, very, very basic, loose, not very good explanation, but that's kind of, this book kind of gets a bit paranormal and everything, which very typical of Stephen King. Now, what I will say, if you love the way that Stephen King writes, but you're not quite prepared to chow down on a 1,500 word novel, might I introduce you to my other friend? Whoopsie. Cell, also by Stephen King. He's one of my favorite authors. This book is, I think, about 400 pages or so. Yeah, 450 around that. I read this in the 2021 lockdown. It was a really, really long lockdown, however many, I don't know, 15 weeks or something, from COVID. So I read this in a day and it kept me up at night. I was obsessed with it. This is the kind of book that if you want the action to start on page 10 and not stop until you literally finish it, this is what you want. Still an element again of kind of this paranormal hive mind kind of thing. But essentially what you're doing is you're following this character, Clayton Riddell, and he is a comic book author, illustrator. And literally the book starts with him going into a meeting to sell one of his comics. He steps out onto the street and every single person that has a cellular device that they're using, all of a sudden their brains get scrambled and it just descends into chaos. And they just kind of go through like the most violent transformation where they just start beating the living hell out of everyone around them, whether they've been transformed by the cellular devices or not. And essentially Clayton is trying to make his way across the country, I believe, to get back to his son who lives with his estranged wife. Fantastic book, action-packed, non-stop. Like, you can just tell when he was writing this, Stephen King had his foot like pedal to the metal the whole entire time. Excellent, excellent, excellent. If you're looking for something that's again a shorter read but maybe a bit more introspection, I would recommend, actually that's not it, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. So Cormac McCarthy is one of my favorite authors ever. He writes in a really unique way. His use of punctuation, or realistically lack thereof, makes it feel like every time you're reading one of his works that you're reading like a novel-length poem. He writes so beautifully about absolutely devastating experiences. So The Road is essentially about a father and a son. I believe they remain nameless for the entirety of the novel. It's a father and a son, and they're moving across America, and it's like this post-apocalyptic wasteland kind of thing. Like, maybe there was like a nuclear fallout or something, I'm not sure. All you know is that everything is ash and fire and smoke. There's no sun in the sky, and this father and this son and their little trolley cart full of all their belongings, and they're making their way across the country, and they're trying to get to the ocean. That's essentially the premise of this. Along the way, there's obviously a lot of death and destruction, and you're seeing the worst parts of humanity. In saying that, like, when you read this book, it almost seems quite nihilistic. Like, you're like, why would you want to fight to survive in a world like this? It's so depressing. Like, what is there to survive for? But the characters themselves, I actually do think, are quite optimistic. And the novel does end on a slight, you could almost say, hopeful note. This book will leave a pit in your stomach when you finish reading it. And it's only 300 pages. It is so brief, but is deeply introspective. I think that if an author is going to do a novel that's driven by characters' emotions and thoughts, and these long passages of internal dialogue in their internal monologue, inside of their heads, it does need to be shorter. I do think that, because otherwise it can become quite heavy and you kind of get bogged down in it, and it is difficult to follow along. But that's something that Cormac McCarthy does really, really, really well. And again, 300 pages. If you're looking to feel like a person that's been changed on a cellular level in 300 pages, this is your book. It's also been made into a movie. Highly recommend. I actually watched the movie before I read the book. I know, cardinal sin of reading. But I was like 15 and obsessed with Viggo Mortensen. That's actually how I ended up coming across this story to begin with. I was looking for Viggo Mortensen films. I saw The Road. I think Cody Smith-McPhee also plays the son. And Guy Pearce and Charlize Theron are also in this movie. So there's a lot of people, like big names. But yeah, I was looking for a Viggo Mortensen movie, came across this, watched the film, was devastated by it. Like it up to that point, I'd only consumed, say, apocalyptic horror that was of the zombie subgenre. So I didn't really watch anything that was sort of like, this man-made kind of war has killed us all or anything like that. So to watch this and just be scared on a whole new level, like, I'm not running away from a monster that's unrecognizable. I'm actually running away and I'm fearing a monster that's very much present in this current world that I'm living in now. Yeah. It's safe to say it rocked my world. Then obviously I found out it was a book. I had to read the book, and that was how I discovered Cormac McCarthy. This is the first Cormac McCarthy novel I ever read, and he's still one of my favorites to this day. Blood Meridian, again, is another one that I recommend. Blood Meridian, and No Country for Old Men. And No Country for Old Men, an excellent film adaptation. Again, they can do no wrong. This guy writes so well that it's like impossible to screw up his books when they get turned into movies. I don't know what to tell you. Cell, on the other hand, does have a movie attached to it. I don't like to shit on other people's work. I don't like it. I think it takes a lot to create something and put it out in the world for it to be consumed. So with all the disclaimers of like 1,000 Dying Suns, please just forgive me when I say do not watch the movie. Don't watch the movie. I'm pretty sure it's got John Cusack in it. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Just read the book. The book is phenomenal. I don't know what happened with the movie. I don't know. And I hate to say that because I love apocalypse movies. Just read the book. Do yourself a favor. Just read the book for this. Watch the movie and read the book for this. And honestly, I don't think it matters what order you do it in either because it's a good book. Speaking of books to movies, we have the Zombie Survival Guide. And along with it, World War Z. I don't know where my copy of World War Z has gone. I must have loaned it out or something. I'm not sure. But they're both amazing. So the Zombie Survival Guide is literally what it says it is. It's a step-by-step guide on how to survive the zombie apocalypse. Obviously geared towards more of an American audience because there's like a whole chapter in here about weapons and lots of guns and all that kind of stuff. And in Australia, that's not necessarily as easily accessible. So, take that with a grain of salt. But it's actually really cool. It goes into like so much detail about, if you get bitten in a certain part of your body, how long will it take for you to turn into a zombie? And if you can cut that limb off, if you get bit on like a hand or a leg or something, how much time you've got, and surviving in a sedentary kind of lockdown situation versus surviving out on the road. Like, he goes into so much detail. Max Brooks is like the OG zombie nerd after George A. Romero himself. He wrote World War Z as well. And World War Z is told through like this experience of World War Z, so the whole world being taken over by a zombie virus, but it's told through like excerpts out of like diaries and things like that of people that experienced it. And it's really, really good read, a very quick read again. From memory, I feel like it's about as thick as this book. It was amazing. There were some really memorable moments in that book, particularly some of the battles that they went through. That's why it was so controversial for people that were fans of the book when the movie came out. So World War Z is obviously the movie with Brad Pitt in it. And I remember watching an interview with Max Brooks, and he was saying, they said, oh, we want to make World War Z, and he was like really keen and really on board. And then he found out they were literally just taking the name, and that was it. And he was like quite dejected by that, which is understandable because the book itself there's so much merit to turn that into a film. Like, it would get snapped right up. And in a world where we have where we're making movies exclusively that have IP already attached to them, how is that not being made into a movie? Because it had such a cult following. I don't understand why they decided to take the name and just completely change the storyline. Don't get me wrong, World War Z starring Brad Pitt, great movie. I really enjoyed it. I think it's an interesting take on the zombie subgenre. But I do think that they really missed the mark in terms of carrying over an audience that was already attached to a piece of literature. I think they missed the mark there. In saying that, this is really, really worth it. It's a fun read. World War Z, really, really good. If you want something that's based in Australia, for all my little Australian friends out there, I present to you On the Beach by Nevil Shute. This book was published in like 1958, I think. And this follows the world ending after nuclear war. So the entirety of the Northern Hemisphere is completely just decimated by nuclear war. And everyone that survived is living in Australia, and they're essentially just doomed. And they're waiting for the nuclear fallout to make its way down to the Southern Hemisphere via weather patterns and the ocean's current and stuff like that. So essentially this book takes off as people are like getting sicker and sicker and sicker because all of the radiation's starting to poison them. And it's so, again, nihilistic. Like I remember reading this and just thinking, this is so depressing. And like the government, you know, mass produces and mass distributes these like suicide pills for people to take as the end gets nearer. And like it reminds me of I think it was in 28 Days Later, when like it's painted on the wall of the chapel, the end is fucking nigh. Is that, I'm pretty sure it's in that one. That's kind of what this whole book is, just essentially one big countdown to the end of the world. And there is elements of hope in it. The main character is quite hopeful. He essentially he's an American, I believe, and he's in the Navy, and he wants to try to find, he seems to think that there's still a way to contact people living in America. He thinks people have survived in America, and he's like trying to get in a submarine to like get back over there to try and find his family. And yeah, like it's, I believe I'm recalling that correctly. I read this a while ago. But yeah, not only outside of the fact that like obviously it's just a devastating read, because this was published so long ago, it's actually just kind of funny to read it and see how the author kind of paints people. Like you get this feeling of like a woman's role in society. Like, you know, they're all sitting around having a dinner party and they're like, oh, why are you sad? Go bake a cake. Like it's just, it's funny to read now. Like obviously with the 2025 eyes, as opposed to the 1958 ones. But it's a good book. And again, it's only short. So you could do this in one sitting. I actually got this I read it on my Kindle. Shout out Kindy Windy, I love her. But I read it on my Kindle, and then if I like something on my Kindle, I'll go and try and thrift or buy secondhand the actual hard copy to have on my bookshelf. And I went to a secondhand secondhand book store, and this was here, and this was there. It was such a surprise. I wasn't even really looking for it. It was on my list, but I was like, oh, I hope, a wish, and a prayer. It's a first edition copy. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but I think that's the coolest thing in the world. This is like one of the coolest books I own. But yeah, Nevil Shute on the Beach. Very good read. Okay. Now, the final recommendation that I have, I feel like people don't talk about. I feel like people do not talk about these books. They're a series, okay? The Passage series by Justin Cronin. So you've got The Passage, The 12, and The City of Mirrors. I don't know why people don't talk about this. Now, I could be totally wrong, and I could just be living with my head up my butt, but I thought, I just don't ever hear anyone talking about this. So essentially what happens is you follow the world as it like descends into chaos. This again, a man-made virus. But instead of turning people into zombies, it kind of turns them into more like vampires. But very traditional vampires in a very traditional sense of like don't go out in the daylight and stuff like that. And there's one girl that is exposed to the virus, but she develops kind of like her aging is rapidly decreased, so she doesn't really age. She's got these special like communicative powers and all that kind of stuff. So the book starts off with that, and then it immediately jumps ahead 100-year time jump, and you sort of see how people are surviving, these sort of first, second, third generations of people that are surviving post end of the world. And these are people, like the characters that we follow along in the story are characters that were born into this post-apocalyptic world. So they actually don't really have a lot of knowledge about what happened, you know, in the old times before the end, you know, before the virus. This is like multi-generational epic story. If you're looking for something that you want to feel like at the end of it, you really got to know these characters, you experienced something with them, you went on this long journey, I cannot stress this enough. This is such a good series. I think it's scary. Like, there's so many parts. I read these books back in back in like 2018 maybe. I think I've read The Passage, the first one, and it, like, there are still moments from that book that I remember, and have stuck with me. Scary moments, like when you got to go out and to take the bins out at nighttime and it's dark and suddenly you remember every scary thing that you've ever experienced in your life. Scenes from these books come up when I have to do that. So I can't stress it enough. It is so good. It was years ago. I feel like it was optioned for a TV series and they got like halfway through the first season or something like that. I don't know. And then it just got scrapped. Again, I don't know what's going on. Just don't turn it into a TV series. Although I was hopeful. I thought maybe it had the potential to be as good as like The Walking Dead. But I'd settle for like 3 movies, or like 4 movies where they turn the last book into 2 or something like that. I would settle for that. I would totally settle for it. It's amazing. The thing is, when you go on like an epic journey that spans 3 massive books like this, you are going to get every aspect of this experience explained to you, right? So like, it's not just in the here and the now of, this is the world, these are the new rules of this new world and we've got to learn them really quickly in order to survive. You don't just get that element. You also get the author taking the time to take you right back to the very beginning of the outbreak, I guess, or even before that, when they're looking at doing the testing and stuff like that. You get to get the backstories. They test on death row inmates, basically. So they're the first initial like people to become infected with this virus. And they go through all of their backstories. So like, you really get to know whether you're rooting for these people or whether you hate them or whether it's a tragedy or whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. Like, you really get time to sit with that and really make up your mind. And I think that contributes to the feeling of like, at the end of this, feeling like you actually went somewhere with someone. The way that I feel about these books is the way that I feel about like when I was little and I read Harry Potter for the first time and I like put the series down and just was like, what do I do now? What do I do? I just read all of these stories about all these characters and they left such a mark on me, and now I don't know what to do or what to, where to go from here. That is how I felt about reading these as an adult. So if you're kind of still got a part of you that has like a post Harry Potter hangover from when you were a kid and nothing really captured you the way that those books did, I introduce you to Justin Cronin's The Passage series, because this will not let you down. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. One of my favorite series ever. So yeah, those are my recommendations for novels that cover apocalyptic horror. I think that I did recently read They All Die Screaming. I can't talk about that. I went into They All Die Screaming not realizing that it was dark, like extreme horror. And all the TikToks I saw that were talking about it were like they were like, oh yeah, like, oh, all the trigger warnings, ha ha ha, great read, couldn't put it down. And I was like, oh, okay, I need a book to like suck me in, let's go. What I can't talk about it, but just know it was insane. It was the craziest thing I've ever read. I can't talk about it. These are my recommendations. If you're looking at getting into reading some apocalyptic horror, I think each one of these books, each one of these authors brings something different to the genre that I think improves it and offers a unique perspective. My absolute favorites from this bunch, if I had to pick just a few to stand out, I can't. I don't know if I can. Oh, okay. Maybe Cell by Stephen King, in terms of if you want something fast-paced that you can't put down. I think The Road by Cormac McCarthy, because again, if you just really need to cry and just feel like the world is over and you're dead inside, 10 out of 10, pick up a Cormac McCarthy book. They're the best. And then obviously the Passage series, because it needs more love. It needs more love. It needs to be made into a movie. I'm just endlessly gobsmacked at the fact that so many people, I've recommended this series to like every person I know that reads, because they're easy to read, but they're so good. I loved him. I feel like the author left no stone unturned, and I think that it's just criminally underrated. Those are my recommendations. If you don't like it, that's fine. How about you leave a comment and you tell me which books should have been on my list? Maybe I've read them, maybe I haven't. I'll happily chat with you in the comments about it if I think it's a load of crap. But I'm always open to new suggestions, except for They All Die Screaming. That was insane. You guys can keep that. You can keep that on your bookshelf. I don't need that kind of stuff on my bookshelf. I'm good. But if you have any other recommendations kind of in the realm of what I've just talked about, hit me up, because again, it's one of my favorite genres to read. Oh dear. It's one of my favorite genres to read, and I think that I'm always looking for new stuff. Okay, now we're at the end of the video. I'm not going to do the whole like and subscribe thing because that makes me cringe on the deepest level. But if you made it this far, thanks. Again, we're really trying to get to Antarctica with the use of Coca-Cola. Please sponsor me, Coca-Cola. Proudly not sponsored. Unproudly? Sadly not sponsored. Please sponsor me, Coke. Coca-Cola, I love you. Coca-Cola, send me to Antarctica before the ice caps melt. I wanna see a leopard seal in real life. Even though they were the bad guy in Happy Feet. Was it Happy Feet? I think it was Happy Feet when he tried to eat the penguin. Ever since I saw that when I was a kid, I wanted to see a leopard seal in real life. Please help me get there, Coca-Cola. As every day goes by, I drift further and further away from God. Okay, bye.